is David Henderson. I'm a wing commander in the Royal Australian Air Force Reserve. I spent 24 years in Permanent Air Force and the remainder of my career in the Reserve. Keith Jerd and myself were the first pilots posted directly off pilot's course to go to 12 Squadron, which I wasn't too happy about because I wanted to go to 9 Squadron, but having gone to 12 Squadron, I'm glad I went there first. It was a great squadron. We actually did a helicopter conversion on Iroquois at number 5 Squadron before we then went on to 12 Squadron and did our conversion onto the Chinook. I started fairly late in life. I joined the Air Force when I was 25 and a half, 26 being the maximum age you could be, but I'd done a mechanical engineering degree before I joined, and so I ended up a flying officer rather than a pilot officer when I graduated from pilot's course. So when I arrived at the squadron, I was probably 26. When I turned up at the squadron, luckily I was travelling with Keith Jerd, and so we both turned up at the squadron at the same time, but I found it very easy to assimilate into the squadron. The squadron executives were excellent, really friendly people, and the rest of the squadron members were very friendly, as were the loadmasters, flight engineers and ground crew, who had to put up with these bog rats turning up straight off pilot's course. And yeah, it was a very easy assimilation. People like Ted Bark and Des Long, who did a lot of our training. Excellent. Well, first of all, we did our conversion course, which took us through the basics of flying circuits, carrying external loads, flying the aircraft at very high weights with internal loads, which is probably the most dangerous things you can do with a Chinook, because if you lose an engine, you can't get rid of internal loads. Whereas with external loads, just push a button and it's gone. Probably the first significant exercise I remember was Hold Tight and Tiger Tail, which was an Army support exercise up at Townsville. And the thing I remember about that was that we had 2 aircraft, and we had one of the first camouflaged aircraft. Previous to that, they'd all been green with a white roof. But we started camouflaging the aircraft, and we had the first aircraft camouflaged up there.
About what time, about what year was that?
That would have been 1978 as well.
78, right?
Yeah, late 78. I spent the first half of 1978 doing helicopter conversion down in Canberra. Then I came to the squadron, did my conversion onto the Chinook, and then went on to exercises. Some of the exercises, the Army exercises, occurred in the high range training area above Townsville. And it was reasonable altitude, like you could get up to about 2,000 feet altitude, and in summertime it was quite hot. And aircraft suffer when they're high and hot. It's referred to as density altitude, and the higher the density altitude, the less the aircraft can carry. And the big difference between the Chinook and the Iroquois is the Chinook is far more capable of carrying heavy loads in high density altitude situations, whereas an Iroquois at that time, and even later the Black Hawks, could probably only carry 1 gun and 1 bag of ammunition and possibly some of the crew. The Chinook could carry 2 guns, 4 bags of ammunition and all the crews inside the aircraft in one go. So the Chinook gave the Army and the Air Force the capability of lifting far bigger loads and far heavier loads and carrying them further.